We still face terrorists who would rather go on killing the innocent than accept the rise of liberty in the heart of the Middle East. And the United States of America will not relent until this war is won.
The Roots of War, The Road to Peace. We're engaged in the battle of battles, safeguarding our democracy and our civil liberties. According to the 2003 U.S. Department of State, terrorism is premeditated, politically motivated violence against non-combatant targets by subnational groups or clandestine agents, usually intended to influence an audience. The Roots of War, The Road to Peace is a project to build bridges and to help us better understand the present-day situation in the Middle East, the historical context that has led to a culture in turmoil, and the terrorist acts that have so dramatically impacted the United States and its partners. Acts of terrorism are not new. Terrorism is a tactic used in almost all wars. Our purpose, to explore in depth terrorism and its many definitions. To some, it is terrorism. To others, resistance and freedom fighters. To better understand the situation on the ground, we travel to Baghdad, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Israel.
Okay, you're looking at the 6-foot crater. Actually, it looks more like a 10 to 12 feet crater to me in terms of the cross. Hard to tell how deep it is. Obviously, it's filled with water. It's kind of shades of Oklahoma City.
We wanted answers to why America is hated. The role of women in the Middle East, democracy, the rule of law, and what this truly means to Middle East countries and governments. We asked questions and we listened to key leaders in business and government, the political and the religious, students and their professors, the average person on the street, in shops and camps, on the land, so we could report fairly and objectively on what the situation is on the ground.
We don't want them to know that we are terrorism people. We are peace people.
Our purpose? To explore various sides of challenging issues, from the economic forces of energy, dependency and globalization, and how they affect Middle East policies, how U.S. policies and our administration are viewed and reacted to by the governments and citizens of key Middle East countries, the strain in U.S. relations, Islam, and how Islamic fundamentalists are using religion for their own purposes amongst the poor and disenfranchised, who have no hope.
Homes! What we will do? We are dying without nothing. Because of that, we feel sad. Because of that, we bought these bombs. I will do it. I will push my son to do it.
Our mission, to inform and challenge each of us on how we in the United States can better understand the Middle East ideology that plays such a dramatic role in today's geopolitical system.
Well, I think first to say the backlash in America was totally understandable because 15 of the 19 participants were from this country. I think it is fair to say, however, that the leadership of this country was as shocked as we were in America to find out that citizens of their country, in that number, were involved in the tragedy of 9/11.
Well, I wanted to understand why America was attacked. What motivated these men, 19 hijackers, 15 of them Saudis, to seize these aircraft full of jet fuel and ram them into buildings and killing thousands of Americans?
Bin Laden and his group were not really crazy to do what they did, utilizing Saudi Arabians, because they know his objective is to break that relationship, to break the strategic relation between Saudi Arabia and America.
This work will not be about sound bites, but an objective look at the situation on the ground. As Americans, we get fed sound bites.
The main element of the fence is a very highly sophisticated electronic sensor fence. Basically, it's just to detect movement, and along the fence is a patrol road, so patrols can get to the area when there's a detection of movement and simply stop the person who's trying to cross.
بحبك قد الثواني والدقايق والسنين بحبك قد الحروب اللي في أسامي العاشقين بحبك قد الثواني.
It's a 9 meters wall with concrete that has been snaking around our lands since August 2002 even. It was 2 meters high, but then they changed it in January 2004 with this 9 meters wall, concrete wall. Now, as you can see that the wall is not really going through direct path. It's going in zigzag, as we call it, snaking its way around. Drawing a new borderline for the state of Israel even, not just for the Palestinian state.
The reason to build such a security fence here is security. I mean, in the last 3.5 years, 950 Israelis were murdered by terrorism.
And I looked at her and I had to make sure that it was her. I had to make sure that I wasn't saying this is Michal and it wasn't Michal and some other mother was, looking for a daughter, and because I decided this was Michal, I remembered she had braces, and I put my fingers into her mouth and I checked. I can't tell this story without getting upset.
But the ultimate tragedy of these tragedies has been the leadership of the Palestinian people themselves, that time and again have led their people down a cul-de-sac at best.
The government of Sharon himself, are quite satisfied to have Arafat there in his bombed-out headquarters under siege, totally held hostage, incapable of moving or doing anything, and blaming him for everything.
They hate us because they see themselves engaged in a war against a brutal, dehumanizing, vicious enemy who has shattered their world for over 1,000 years, committed atrocities everywhere, and they're still doing it. For them, this is an ongoing religious war, and it is extremely important that Americans understand that it's not what we did or didn't do. It is who we are, the leading Christian power in the world.
A lot of the Arabs or Middle Eastern countries, citizens of the Middle Eastern countries, they hate the American policies. They don't hate the people.
Most people in this part of the world very strongly disagree with most of the foreign policy of our government, and they may hate our government, and a lot of them will say so.
I have had my nationality no problem whatsoever.
And she said, I've been reading your reports that you fax home every night. She said, some of these reports are very disturbing. She said, what do you really think? Did you put everything down on paper? And we did. I said, yes, that's the way we see it. She said, it doesn't seem very comforting. I said, that's right. She said, do you see any hope for us? And I hesitated just a little bit too long because she had that look. And I said, ma'am, quite frankly, I'm not sure if I do see any hope. If you don't try to resolve some of the issues that are right here on the ground, maybe there's not going to be any hope. And I have grandchildren, and I'd like to see the world a better place for them. And it's going to start right here.
We went into this project without any preconceived notions, and I think you can tell from looking at the tape that there's not any easy answer, is there? Let me just close with a quote from one of my favorite economists. His name is F.A. Hayek, and he put it this way. He said, over the long run, it is the battle of ideas, and it's the intellectual, the journalist, novelist, filmmaker, and so on, who translates and transmits ideas of the scholars to the broader public. It is the intellectual who is critically important. He or she is the filter who decides what we hear, when we hear it, and how we hear it. We've seen too many sound bites. We need to look at it realistically.